Guys, we often talk a lot about Russia's failures, but we need to be honest, it's not that Russia is losing everywhere. For example, Russia is the world champion in internet shutdowns according to top 10 VPN. That is a huge, actually a global ranking of countries that experienced the worst internet related problems in 2025, and Russia is on the very first place. Actually, in Russia they had 3 times more hours without internet than in the second country in that rating, and that was Pakistan. Among the other countries, Myanmar, Equatorial Guinea, Iraq, Tanzania, Venezuela. What is also important in many countries, the reasons for internet shutdowns were natural disasters, problems with weather, some other reasons, but in Russia we can all guess that is a desperate try of the Kremlin to hide the truth from the population about the constant Russian failures, including their failures in economy. And here, another very important consequence of these internet shutdowns. We all live in the 21st century when a lot of people are working, studying in the internet, and these shutdowns in Russia led to $11.9 billion lost. Russian economy is collapsing because of the Ukrainian drone sanctions, your economic sanctions, Putin economic mismanagement, exhausting war. But with this necessary for the survival of regime, I guess, internet shutdowns, they lost $11.9 billion. So let's discuss what these shutdowns mean for the course of war and what do they tell us about the state of the Russian Federation in general from an ordinary Ukrainian perspective according to the objective top 10 VPN analysis. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia that has already started, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth. So we are at the beginning of 2026 and it's common to share various analytics of 2025. And top 10 VPN is a huge global rating that looks into internet problems in various countries of the world to analyze them, to demonstrate their influence on countries' economy and the reasons for these internet shutdowns. And Russia is on the very first place. In general, in 2025, Russians spent 37,166 hours without internet. And being the largest country in the world, it literally touched all of its population, 140 million people, who describe themselves as apolitical, but I believe with more and more problems caused by this very political war will change their opinion. So Russians had 3 times more hours without internet than people in Pakistan, the country that is ranked second. What is also important to remember, in many of the countries that got to this list, and there is no Ukraine, think about that, a country at war that simply does not hide the truth from us. And Russia does the contrary. So anyway, there are countries that had problems with internet because of weather, various natural disasters, and some other reasons not connected to the censorship or the desire to control the population to hide the truth. In Russia, it's pretty obvious. At the beginning of this practice, when they just tested internet outages, they explained that the reason was the desire to protect some military sites, that Ukrainian drones may be using mobile internet to reach these locations. But now even people in Russia understand that is not true. Why? First of all, because there are other ways that help Ukrainian drones to reach the locations, and it's not the universal solution to turn off the internet. But second, even if you turn off the internet, you return it after the attack is over, and that's not what they do in Russia. And another extremely important fact, they very often turn off internet far away from those areas where Ukrainian drones or missiles reach. I'm talking about the Far East, I'm talking about Republic of Sakha and elsewhere, where people have never experienced drone attacks but spend days without internet. That is the way Kremlin protects itself from people learning the truth about the Russian economic, military failures, and perhaps a way to suppress various protests that keep rising in very distant and very different regions of this unnaturally vast territory. And I was also very glad to see that those specialists analyzed the reasons for electricity and internet outages in countries that they looked into. And what surprises them about Russia is the fact that these internet shutdowns are very specific. They do not look that natural as in other countries. And for example, they have systemic nationwide character. So if it is caused by weather, I don't know, a snowfall, a natural disaster, it will be regional. In Russia, they have systemic nationwide character. And also, they demonstrate selective data speed restrictions. Like when you want to access a specific kind of data, you will encounter speed restrictions and also targeted interference with internet protocols. So it's not the bad work of internet providers, it's not the bad work of, I don't know, electricity, mobile connection, but this is an intentional interference of the Kremlin in the internet. Just imagine something similar happening in your country, not for an hour, not for a day, not during some sabotage, but during 37,166 hours. And we know such mobile and standard internet outages are common in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, and in the far east of Russia, very far away from the locations targeted by Ukrainian drones. And for weeks, it all began in May when Putin feared that Ukrainian drones may visit him during the victory parade in Moscow. And then with each month, they have more and more time without internet because I guess the Kremlin simply enjoys this silence and full control over the population. But it has some other very negative consequences, even for the Kremlin regime. You know that the Russian economy is collapsing under this international sanctions, Ukrainian drone sanctions, and even Putin economic mismanagement. And shutdowns of internet lead to tremendous economic problems because millions of people are working, studying, buying in the internet. And in 2025 alone, Russia lost $11.9 billion, not rubles. This is almost like more than 900 billion rubles, but 12, let's say $12 billion were lost because the Kremlin decided to turn off internet. Let me know in the comments below, why do you think they turn off internet all over the Russian Federation and they seem to enjoy it tremendously in 2025? And as we see more and more problems coming to the Russian Federation, perhaps in 2026 they will spend even more hours in this like internet clean environment because Russia is extremely Orwellian, and every kind of problem, every kind of restriction or censorship they describe as a blessing and invent a word to describe it in a positive way, but you cannot hide the truth even with the turned off internet. And trust me, millions of those apolitical Russians that cheered for this war can clearly see that Ukrainians, even during days of electricity outages, have access to internet, and all because we're not hiding the truth. And you don't hide the truth. Share this video, subscribe to Anna Danilchuk, my second channel, and to my social media on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord, all the links in the description of this video, same as the link to our merch shop with special offers for calendars 2026. Thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Thank you for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. And let me know, would you like our live conversation this Saturday, 9 p.m. Kyiv? Love you. Slava Ukraini!